This is technically our first episode. We actually had a business meeting the other day and we thought this was so good. This should be the pilot, right? So, this is technically our first episode. I'm Shiva and I'm helping Jason here create the real life media network for creators. And yeah, so mainly it'll be Jason as the host, but I will be interviewing Jason today to kind of get his ideas. How you
Yeah,
doing?
good man. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
So, I think it would be best if people kind of understood your backstory a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you'll be doing more than hosting one or two shows, man. Yeah, my background is sort of a mixed background. So I grew up the son of a teacher and a coach. My grandfather ran vocational education in the state of Colorado. So I grew up a lot thinking about learning and earning and how people do or don't advance in their life. I went off to Pepperdine in Malibu and got the experience of working with the elite people in our society, people who built businesses. They were media moguls, celebrities, and it was a eye-opening time for me, right? Because I grew up looking at culture through the other side of the camera, and got to see how it got made through capital, through connections, and then technology was really changing media at the time. And I started out as an investment banker, investing in and advising on transactions in the media business, and got really interested in how culture is being shaped through transformation, transformation of the way we tell stories, transformation of the way we focus on ideas. Social media was on the rise at the time, so that was transforming the entertainment business as well. One of the parts of the entertainment business I really loved, because I was an athlete by background, was a sports business. So I actually started a group with the founder of Major League Soccer, president of CBS Sports, and was really fortunate as a young man to work in an industry that was undergoing a lot of change with some of the top people in the industry. So I got to see like the future of content, the future of value, of flow of value, let's say. And social was changing a big part of that. And I was inspired to get involved in social media technology, knowing that the technology platforms were going to drive a lot of the value in the future. And so started a high school sports internet company, and that was a failure. My first gig, my own capital, the 2008 market collapse kind of took our business under, but had a couple insights during that period of time and got really fascinated with social search and social data, our personal data, and moved up to Silicon Valley and got a little bit of an EAR gig. It was an informal one with a VC fund there, and put together a team to build a company that at the time Tim O'Reilly said would change the internet forever, which was a little too much pressure for a startup and a guy that wasn't super technical at the time.
Right.
But we built a open source platform called the Locker Project, which allowed people to pull all of their personal information into one place and then provision that data to third party applications. And we had a vision for the way the internet could ultimately be fully distributed, and the value flows on the internet could pivot around the individual instead of through the platforms that we currently participate in. So for creators, right, we trade on your Instagrams and your TikToks and your YouTubes, but it's the case that it's difficult to kind of manage traffic monetization. You don't technically own your audience on these platforms, and there's all these problems sort of for creators that get created because of the current technology paradigm we have today. Singly was a PhD in how to build and not build a startup at the same time. I found myself as a founder. I had a friend who was a CEO coach, and he's like, there's the growth zone and there's the danger zone. I think you're right in the danger zone on how much you do and don't know right now.
Yeah.
And we took the wrong kind of capital. I think VC was a paradigm that would have been super useful once we had product market fit, but there was a lot of core innovations that have taken place since that time that weren't available to us, that we were having to build from scratch. So we had some of the best engineers in the world, and Jeremy's on the board of Blue Sky now, and Dennis is working at Facebook, and I was privileged to see how great engineers work, which was super cool. But we sold the business kind of in a technology acquisition to Accelerator, and I did an Eat, Pray, Love journey after that. Literally started doing personal development, psychology, went deep on Jungian psychology and integral theory and the human operating system, because I had just spent a bunch of time thinking about our personal data, but I hadn't done a lot of work inside myself. right? And
Yeah.
I was stunned as I was doing this work why we hadn't learned these things in school. Like, where was psychology? Where was the inner life? Where was, resilience as a skill that we're taught? Peak performance, all the things that CEO coaches get, great athletes get.
Yeah.
There's a big conversation in the workforce education space around equity. It also shows up a lot in the creator economy, but ultimately, like, if each individual is not given the training and the skills of how to develop themselves, right, which I think you talk a lot about personal development in
Mm-hmm.
your work, right? And but if they don't know how life works, how they work, how to make a life work, we're setting people up for failure. And um, there was a sharp contrast to me being able to do that work in my 30s while leading a national nonprofit for the future of workforce and education. And when you zero in on the focus of that industry, it's an industry led apparatus. And so they're thinking a lot about, do employers get what they need? Um, we had massive skill gaps come up in our economy because of technology.
You kind of talked about this, about the idea of go after something. And I think there's also a lot of pressure on not knowing sometimes what that is. And I think the best way to know is just try a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is people who stress about, well, is this my passion? And as a personal example, when I started podcasting, it certainly wasn't my passion because it would take me 12, 13 hours to edit an audio episode, not even video, right? So, I mean, there's certainly, and even one time I clicked save and it just completely erased and I had to start 12 hours all over again. So there was definitely moments of, man, this is frustrating. But over time, the passion arose because I could see where I started and where I'm going,
Yeah.
and that the skills that grew along the way. I think that's when passion starts to arise.
Yeah, there's actually a great person in the personal development space, Krista Stryker, who talks a lot about this, that you
Mm.
build passion.
Mm,
Um, I think the thing that you need to get a passion started is an inkling, a
yeah,
knowing, and then the courage to begin.
that's a big one. I think I sat for maybe 5 minutes before hitting publish on my first ever
Yeah.
podcast episode. I got so it was already done, ready to publish. I got so nervous. I remember distinctly. I hit publish. I closed the laptop, went for a walk. I was like, I'm not thinking about this. Um, but yeah, taking that first leap is hard.
Yeah, big
Hmm.
time. And I sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, but if you follow your instincts, I mean, it didn't make sense for me career wise a couple
Yeah.
years ago to sit down with a technical college leader who I admire and design curriculum from scratch with scientists. Like, it
Hmm.
was just, I felt like the unit of change would begin with myself and with one person who believed in the same thing I believed in. And it was super fun. We geeked out. We, nights and weekends did this on the edges of my consulting work and his day job. But the craft of building something with another person is also super energizing.
Hmm.
And finding maybe somebody that wants to do it with you is super energizing too.
I was actually thinking this the other day, that I think this opportunity is great because I was reflecting on my path and there was often a lot of loneliness because it was just me.
Mm.
And I think what's awesome about this opportunity is that our team wants to help people do what I did. Other Gen Zers do that too, but this time they don't have to do it alone.
Right.
They have the framework, they have help, they have support,
Yeah.
right? So can you tell us a little bit about how we're trying to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I think um, so. I'm a big believer that Martin Luther King had a great phrase, like, I can't become what I ought to become until you become what you ought to become, and that's the fundamental nature of reality.
Mm,
um, and that can apply at every level, right? But all the way from, like, our collective society down to just a moment between two people like us, right? But that I summarize as teamwork. And teamwork, there's a phrase I've heard people use it in sarcastic ways, but I mean it deeply. Like, teamwork makes dreams work.
mm-hmm.
And so when you are creating something and you feel alone, it's the power of who you get to do it with that unlocks it for you. For creators that we're going to work with in our ecosystem, we see the ability and opportunity for each person in Gen Z that's part of our ecosystem to be not just a learner, but a teacher. I think we're constantly,
Yeah.
you think about your podcast, like we're constantly learning and teaching at the same time.
Yeah.
And the things that you're picking up from somebody that you're podcasting with, you turn around and you bring into your next episode. Right. And so, I think what we're imagining for the real life media community is chances to be in a community, connect with people, chances to teach, the content that we want to teach broadly in society, because we're not getting it done in education. We're not getting it done in sort of career development programs, is to have Gen Z teach each other. And we're going to have opportunities to kind of dig into the real framework in different pieces, and every creator be able to share those. You might use the word mimetically, but if we can, what we've learned in studies is that like Gen Z wants to learn in edutainment format, short drops, right?
Yeah.
The 60-minute class.
Thanks, TikTok.
Yeah, no way. Right? We've been trained to have like really short attention spans. It's got to be visually pleasing. It's got to be entertaining. Could be a video of a creator like yourself just sitting there pointing at ideas that are on the screen. Could be, a quick talk. But we're going to enable and equip everybody to be edutainers, right? And then grow each other's audiences. I think another part of being a creator that's tough is who's amplifying you and who are you tethering to like feel supported in the growth of your traffic, the growth of your audience, the growth of what ultimately is your business. And so I think there's just different mechanics, which we can get into in greater depth, that can enable people feeling like they're part of the dream team, which we call it. And we're focused on making each other's dreams real, making a collective dream real of everyone having the skills that are necessary to build the life that they ultimately want.
And who are we looking for in terms of this?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at you. How would we break down in business terms, the ICP, right? Like the ideal customer profile. How would you characterize yourself?
Someone with conviction, a desire for more, a hunger, I would say. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my head's going.
Conviction, hunger. Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do it? It's a great question. I think I do it because deep down, I like this field of authenticity and learning and helping other people also learn with me on this path. I've never claimed to know everything, or even when I teach, it's really just what worked for me, right? And I think at the end of the day, there is no total blueprint of the human life. And I think the human experience is so diverse. That's where my passions arose. Actually, I don't even think I ever told you this yet, is in 2019, I did anthropology research in Kenya.
Wow.
So I lived in a tent in the desert for 45 days. And that was the first time in my life where I was disconnected from the internet. It was just me and my thoughts. I mean, my phone usage was 5 minutes a day. And that was for camera, for photos. And it really was the first time in my life before the pandemic where I sat down and it was just me. So that's, I think, where the spark of interest in the human experience started.
Wow. I think those are great characteristics of what we're looking for. People who are driven, people who are intrinsically motivated, people who love learning and love teaching and sharing, people who are deeply passionate about the human experience. I think a longing for connection, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but more of a, hey, I'm up to something and I know other people are too. How do we go do this together?
Yeah.
I think those are the attributes. I think, people who are, I'm indifferent, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, but I think that people are, when I say I'm indifferent to the following. I don't care if you're full-time, if you're working at a job and you're a part-time creator. or if you're
Mm-hmm.
you're a full-time creator. At the end of the day, I think most people are multi-hyphenates hiding in a persona on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right? Like
It's like
LinkedIn is like so hilariously bad, right?
yeah.
It's like a resume, right? But
Yeah.
that's not who we are, right?
Right. Super polished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you want to, like, it's you, even if you go on LinkedIn, you express like a human thought. Like people look at you, they raise an eyebrow. Like, what's the guy doing, right?
Like go to TikTok or something.
Yeah. Right. Totally. But it's so funny. I think Gen Z is pressed into Gen Z in particular is a multi hyphenate generation. Um, McKinsey calls Gen Z the true gen,
Mm-hmm.
and your generation more than anything wants to be real, be authentic, and how do you do that on a flat file on LinkedIn, right?
Oh yeah.
How do you do that inside of a corporation that wants you to just like be a certain way?
Yeah.
That's not
Cookie
truly
cutter.
what's happening for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think real is a play on the word that like so much of our reality is unreal. It's such a constricted, paradigm for who we really are as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would say for those who feel perhaps like they're a misfit, they're probably a very good fit in our community.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason Gen Z starts to question society is because it's not necessarily working in our favor. I mean, the prices of everything's gone up. People are starting to question, is this what I want? 40 years in this job, at this corporation? Do I really want to slave away for a house that's crazy expensive right now? Right. And I think those questions arose, which in a way is a benefit because it gives you an opportunity to pivot.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the company that we do all this under is called Make the Dream Real. But, there's layers to that, right? Like the dream of obviously Dr. King, the dream of the American dream, which your generation is not feeling connected to.
Right.
Right. And most importantly, the dream inside of each person's heart. Right. I think that again, the economics are going to shift, the ways of working are going to shift, and what I see for this community is a group of people who can really start to move in a new economy, a new way of living, a new way of valuing things, but more importantly, being valued.
Yeah. I think we've touched on a lot of points, but I'm sure the audience is still wondering, Jason, this sounds great, but money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they're probably wondering, how does this even work? How do I, make a living off this? Because I still got to eat.
Right. Yeah. For the creators, I think that we're hoping to incentivize them through different tiers of contribution. We want to see people engage because they care about the community. Obviously, we want to embrace kind of a give first model of like, let's show up and show that you care about being part of this community and contributing to it. At certain thresholds, I think we want to reward contribution with, different ideas that you have, and I'd love to. We can talk more about those.
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point in time, we'll start advancing capital to creators that we have the metrics on to know that they're driving meaningful engagement, and we're going to look at engagement as a metric that approximates learning and teaching. Right? Yeah. If we can accomplish as an organization the scaling of these skills and the scaling of this knowledge that people aren't getting inside of our higher education institutions, if we can drive more institutional change because the culture is changing, we'll be able to raise plenty of philanthropic capital to support compensating the creators to achieve this goal of helping people move towards flourishing lives. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about that we've talked about is, the Dream Job Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will have people competing to be selected, to be funded, to have a job similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to see an emerging class of creators who get, the capital to do it full time, to build and lead teams of creators, to be able to start to be actually issuing rewards to other creators that they're seeing emerging in their creator community. And there's a whole lot more there, but we'll leave it there for right now.
Yeah, I'd like to say, for those that are listening, let's say you're a singer, but you just don't have that time. With that opportunity of the dream job opportunity, I mean, imagine getting to practice singing and learn about every nuance in singing and art and just do that and get better and better and make money, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's, like you said, the dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy here, works here, who's a singer,
Yeah.
who I want to see him apply for a dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can sing, and would love to see him put his voice in the world more.
He's got a great personality. I
He
like him.
does.
Yeah.
He's special.
So, Jason, I think a best way to wrap this up is if you were to give, an elevator pitch or a quick statement of wrapping up what this is all about,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say real life media is about scaling what we describe as like the skill of self, or skills for building a flourishing life in which you can pursue your dreams. It starts with the inside job. The real framework stands for resonance, energy, anti-fragility, and liberation. But that's built with some of the top scientists, and we want to make it culturally relevant. So we want to partner with creators to uh, both learn those skills and teach those skills at the same time. Build a community that is on the move together, raising each other's awareness, raising each other's belief in themselves and in each other, ultimately raising each other's financial stake in their future. And everyone who fits the criteria that we talked about, people who are driven, ambitious, love to learn, people who want to elevate what we might describe as consciousness. And I think if we achieve all of that with real life media, that's the North Star.
I will ask here because I'm sure the audience is also wondering this. What makes this feasible? Where is your conviction coming from? Right? Because I can
Yeah.
tell personally, but they're probably wondering, is this legit? Where's your conviction coming from in
Yeah. I
this?
mean, I think ultimately this will rely on a few different sources of income to fuel all of this, right? So we know on social media, when you take a bunch of creators and you aggregate them together, that brands will sponsor that activity, right? So if we do a good job of building the community, there's obviously brand partners, product placements, things like that, right? I'm fortunate to have had some experience working in the philanthropic sector, and I know that there's a lot of wealthy people, whether that wealth sits in a foundation, whether that wealth sits in a donor advised fund, who are watching this generation struggle and know how much potential this generation has, who are looking for new models to invest that capital and see that capital tangibly transform somebody's life, right? And so if we can identify the kinds of people like yourself out there who are creators, I know that there is liquidity available to this project, from people who want to see our culture be transformed towards one where more people are taking autonomy, taking action in their life to self-actualize, to live their dreams. And then of course, somewhere between traditional brand sponsors and philanthropy is an entire ecosystem called corporate social responsibility. We're here in Bentonville, Arkansas, but we have a massive corporation here, Walmart. They've got a great CSR team. The Walmart Foundation does great work, but in the CSR division, they're trying to build the brand of the company, demonstrate that the company is driving social good, and there's really large budgets that I've been fortunate to work with across organizations like Salesforce and Autodesk and others, where I know that the CSR budgets are there for us too, to sponsor getting this work out. And so, we'll have our product, we'll have our media, and having moved, meaningful amounts of capital and philanthropy, I know there's an appetite to see this shift take place, because people are tired of issuing philanthropy and CSR dollars and not seeing society change the way that we know it needs to change. And more fundamentally, like, it has to change because the nature of work is changing so quickly right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jason, I guess lastly, I'd love to end it with, what advice do you have for Gen Z to leave them on a high note of hope?
Yeah. Well, we're going through a radical uh, period of change, and anytime that we experience change, our first instinct might be to feel afraid. The people that are going to do really well in this chapter of life are going to be the people that actually take advantage of the change and bet on themselves and find the ways to ride the wave of that change, right? And it's very clear that we're moving towards a creator economy. It's very clear that we're moving towards an economy where you can do multiple jobs. It's very clear that you can bet on yourself and your skills. And I just would encourage Gen Z to see the fear that might arise in the change that's coming, and actually tell yourself how exciting of a time it is to be alive, and really to go after your dreams and make those dreams real.
And if you guys are curious about the journey of what we're doing, please subscribe and keep in touch to check out what we got going. So thanks, Jason. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Shiva.